Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. We were just having too much fun in council and we overran a little bit. Um, I'm not going to speak for too long, just a small bit of housekeeping because we are running slightly behind schedule. We will go into one question each from you and push around to try and get everyone to get a question. Hey, everyone. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. We were just having too much fun in council and
I seem to have heard that before.
Okay, sorry about that. We have slight technical difficulties here. But as I was saying, we will ask one question and then move around to try and get everyone in. And we will try and fit as many of you in as possible. Seb is going to start by giving his comments, and then I will ask you to raise your virtual hand, and we will start by asking your questions then.
Jamie, thank you. And I'm trying desperately at the end of two long and I have to say very successful council days to avoid the obvious pun that we're running a little later than we thought we would. But that's actually that's really as a result of deep discussions. And I have to say they both days have been very productive. And I'm delighted that those of you who have followed the fortunes of world athletics in the last few years, you will have heard me say at the very beginning of my presidency that the first 4 years, as many of you remember, were quite a challenge. The second 4 years were about putting in place all the things that we needed to do in order to deal with the third 4 years of that sequence, which is really focusing on the sport itself. And I think it came as well, not necessarily relief, but with pleasure to many of my council colleagues that a large part of these council meetings have been devoted to the sport of athletics, the challenges that we are undertaking around innovation, the product itself, and how do we grow the sport and how do we gain even greater traction at the end of what has been an outstanding year. And look, let me just pick up on 3 or 4 quick points. Obviously, the World Championships. We were delighted to welcome Balázs Nemeth and Ivan, both from the organizing committee in Budapest. They gave an in-person presentation about not only the success of the championships, but already the legacy programs that are kicking off. I've been in Budapest recently, and they are profound. Our new executive board and council, I'm very open about this. I think it's the strongest council that I've served on, and it's certainly the strongest executive board. And it's worth reminding ourselves that this is, of course, the first gender equal, gender balanced council, 13 members. Obviously, it's 13 men, 13 women, and we achieved this landmark 4 years ahead of schedule. We also talked a little bit about the HQ team, which has been modestly adjusted, restructured, really to make sure that we have everybody aligned and speaking to the innovative agenda. Our athletes, again, we should never overlook them. They put in some breathtaking performances and right up to the last minute, the last 35, 40 minutes in the Diamond League final in Eugene, 2 world records was outstanding. And most importantly, they've also been very much a part of the fabric of engagement that is so important. It's our relationship with the athletes is stronger and closer than it's ever been. And they in turn, I think, are beginning to recognize that they are very much an intimate part of our landscape and helping with many of the campaigns and many of the things that we're pushing. And finally, our discussions with our partners, commercial, non-governmental, and certainly broadcast, are in better shape than they've ever been. And it was over the course of the last few days that we were able to review the commercial programs, to look at the pipeline, and to actually welcome some new partnerships at pretty much every level. Important decisions have been made regarding the world plan and the strategic plans. And these are important because 2024 is a challenging year. We know that. We have 5 WAS events to deliver: World Athletics Series, our World Championships, and of course, the little matter of an Olympic Games in Paris. And I also really talked to the council about the need to look back on 2024 as one of those years that really began to shift the direction of the sport, both promotionally and with the innovations and the product development that we've talked about. And I really want people in a decade's time to look back on 2024 as being a year where direction did change in very much the way that we look back on the 2016 reforms that created the foundations, the building bricks for the secure foundations for what we're now able to do. We received updates from our working groups, one on the status of Russian and Belarusians in international competition and events, and of course our working group on gender diverse athletes. And as outlined in the release, we approved a range of competition rules and our human rights policy. So look, I have no doubt that our HQ team will face the challenges with determination and stoicism this year, as they always do. They always are the masters of those circumstances. But in the last few days, we've reassured me that we have a strong executive board and a strong council to guide us in that journey, and particularly in that innovation space that will drive the sport forward today, tomorrow, and I hope for a long time to come. And so with that, thank you, Jamie. I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you. Okay, if you would like to raise your hands, and I will work through you, and we will commence with Alex, please.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, Seb. Evening. I just wondered if you mentioned the decisions on Russia and Belarus. I just wondered if today's decision by the IOC to allow athletes from those countries to compete in Paris as neutrals, does that put pressure on you at all to change your position on this?
No.
What's your reaction to that decision?
It was a decision that was reinforced in the Olympic Summit I attended over the course of Tuesday last week, and I think it points to the primacy of international federations to make those judgments. Look, I think it's pretty well. It's the pyramid, isn't it? You know, the primacy of the eligibility and the selection, therefore, of the athletes sits with the international federations. So we have a fixed position. That position hasn't altered. And I think it's right that international federations should make judgments that they feel is in the best interest of their sport. That is what our council has done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Would you like to raise your hands virtually if you would like to ask a question? Do we have any more questions? Thank you. Franco.
Yes, that's very clear what you said about this last news regarding neutral athletes allowed to compete, and it's up to each international federation. But could you explain a little more in technical terms if we could see some neutral Russian or Belarusian athletes competing in Paris? If this is the case, we are going to act. You are going to act like in the past, as the philosophy of the federation, the decision of the federation is changing now, or stay as it used to be?
No, you may well see some neutral athletes from Russia and Belarus in Paris. They just won't be in athletics. And the position that our sport took and has consistently taken is unchanged. So Franco, there's really not much, there's nothing more I can really add to that other than that it's a settled position. It's a position the council took. It's one that's endorsed by the executive board, and on two separate global occasions has been endorsed almost unanimously by the athletics family.
Okay.
Thank you. And so bringing it back to matters on council, do we have any further questions? Okay, well, it looks like it will be a very short one if we're not going to have any more questions. Okay,
Can I have another one?
as it's you, Franco, one more.
I think it would be churlish under these circumstances to say no to you, Franco.
I heard that Singapore could stage a sort of athletics final at the end of the 2026 season. What is it about? Which kind of competition we are looking for in Singapore?
Well, I'm not in a position to confirm any venue. We are in discussion with two global cities, and that's a good thing. But look, in simple terms, we want to be able to make sure that every year in our sport, look, if you look at a World Championships, you have 1 billion viewers. And it is really important that we hit 1 billion viewers every year in the 4-year cycle. There is a fallow, well, I say it's a fallow year. There's a European Championships. We need to be respectful about that. But we have 2 World Championships. We have an Olympic Games, and over a 4-year cycle, you have 1 year where there isn't a World Championships or an Olympic Games. And I think it was the view here that we wanted to make sure that we maintained that profile, that excitement that clearly Budapest has engendered. And it will be I'm not afraid to say this, it will be very much an event designed for television, designed to attract people to the sport, people that may not have immediately picked up on our sport through our traditional structures, and really showcasing the best athletes in the world as a crescendo to the season. I'm hoping that when we are able to put the finishing touches to this, that this will become more than an event on a once every 4-year basis. There will be an enhancement. It'll be an event that will enhance, most importantly, prize money for our athletes. And that is important. I think it will help professionalize the sport. And I think over the course of 3 days of competition with the best athletes closing the season, I think it will add value. I think it will add penetration and power to our sport. And that's really the rationale behind it. Still some details to put together, but good progress being made in that space. And I think we'll probably be in a position into the earlier part of next year to come back to you on that in a more holistic way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stan Ryan from The Hindu.
Yeah. Mr. Sebastian, good evening.
Good evening.
The thing is, we have a lot of testing happening in India, dope testing happening in India now. But the more tests we conduct, the more positive cases are coming up now. So the federation seems to be in a dilemma. Okay, whether they should have more tests or whether the testing fewer athletes is okay. What will be your suggestion on this front?
Look, testing is testing is very clear cut for me. I'm less interested in the number of tests that take place. There are plenty of sports that test a lot, and they're fairly meaningless because they're not particularly intelligence-led. We're well served in athletics now because we do have the Athletics Integrity Unit. It is almost unique in sport and doesn't deal specifically with doping or anti-doping programs. There's a large element of integrity involved in that as well across many of our programs. So we had a report from the from the Athletic Integrity Unit today. The number of tests that athletes at the very highest level of the sport are undertaking is now greater than it's ever been. We made a rule change to make sure that out of competition testing in the lead up to a championship is done the first one is done at least 12 weeks before the competition, and that too is important. And intelligence-led is really vital. So working with national anti-doping agencies, working with our member federations, and having a risk assessment attached to that as well. So it is inevitable that countries that have more international competitors pose a higher risk than those countries that don't take athletes to world championships. And that, and that's how we make our risk assessment. That's how we categorize. So I know, having spoken to the Federation President of India and now our Vice President here, India takes this extremely seriously. And in a large population spread across a large landmass, there are always challenges involved. But I know they're working very closely with the Athletics Integrity Unit and have good relationships with many of those testing agencies in India.
Thank you, Stan. Next we have
Thank you.
Yuti Wakeko.
Sebastian.
Hello, Sep. Good morning from 3 o'clock Tokyo. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Waikaku,
Good.
and I'm not sure whether to say good evening or good morning or.
Good morning, it's fine.
But thank you for being
my,
with us.
my deepest apology. My computer camera very conveniently malfunctioned on me because I'm about to go to bed.
I think at 3:30 in the morning, that's probably not a bad thing.
Okay, good. And allow me to ask you in terms of actually I have to go back to this Russian issue, and we understand that after the IOC summit, there was a following day meeting amongst IF presidents, and one of the issue discussed was or floated more or less was about the friendship games, which Russia might be considering hosting. What is your thoughts on that in terms of sphere of international sport? And also the IOC today on its release said that there are still only 11 athletes from Russia and Belarus who will be qualified for Paris Games. What is your thoughts on that number too?
Well, the number is clearly identifiable because there won't be team sports there, and there are other categories that if those athletes fall into, they won't simply be selected. Ours is ours is again, sorry, Waikaku, to repeat myself, but ours is a settled position. We have made the judgment that there will be no neutral, there will be no fully fledged or even neutral status athletes. On the friendship games, I'm not getting too excited about that. We've had a couple of federations that have made inquiries, and we made it clear that it doesn't really fit within our own values and competition structures. And actually, if I'm looking at it from an already complex and complicated calendar, there's not really much room for very much more. So let's leave it at that. But it's not something that we are giving a great deal of thought to.
Okay, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Camille.
Yeah, hello, Sebastian. Regarding greetings from Poland, Rzeczpospolita, Kamil Kołsut. Please tell me, taking into consideration your strong position regarding Russians and Belarusian athletes, do you think it will help you or it won't help you in the future when you will be running for the office of president of IOC?
Well, you're rather assuming a lot in that question.
Yes.
But I have to tell you that the position that the council has taken is not a one-person decision. That's, you know, I'm a, you know, we reached a collegiate decision, and that's the way sport should be run. And that's how I like to feel that the leadership style in world athletics is we have open discussions. We don't hide behind, you know, one or two people from headquarters that make the judgments, and we're a sport that makes history, not just rubber stamps it. So I'm really happy that the position we've taken is one that is clear and transparent, and our federations know. So that there's not really much I would add to that, and I certainly don't predicate or benchmark any judgments that we make about in the sport about anything else that may be external to that. It's not the way we work here.
And during this Olympic summit, did you feel any pressure personally to change this position of World Athletics, or not really from the other participants?
Do I look like somebody that feels pressure about anything?
Not really.
No.
But
well, there
I
you
need
go.
to ask about
The answer is no.
The
answer is no. We have a settled position here. I have the support of the council and the executive board, and they make policy, and that's the way it should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we finish, I think today the President's Award was announced, and you deviated from your normal stance. So maybe if we share.
Yeah, I'm actually very happy. I did talk to the council just before we left the meeting. It was under any other business, which normally passes by without very much comment. But I have within my gift each year. It's actually it was an award I created when I became president of this great sport, and I wanted to reflect through my own office the work done individually and collectively by people who have made, you know, outstanding seismic contributions to our sport. And, you know, I've had former journalists who have won it. I've had, you know, a game-changing meeting director, Andreas Brugger from Zurich. I've had a broadcaster who made a massive contribution. And they've tended to be individual. They've tended to be, well, they have all been individual recipients. On this occasion, I decided to change tack slightly. So this year's President's Award goes to the collective efforts of the 6 executive directors and their forebears in the World Marathon Majors, the Abbott World Marathon Majors. And I was delighted. I spent a good time this year in New York with all the directors, and halfway through the weekend, in interesting and really productive discussions with them, I recognized that they have made such a huge contribution to at least one and probably 2 pillars of our own strategies here, which is increasing the number of people in our sport, and most crucially, increasing the number of participant runners. Since effectively their inception in 1970, and the efforts they've made in literally the last few years, running has now become the most participated sport in the world. And I just wanted to reflect on the work that they have done, the profile that they have given to running within those majors, those marathon majors, and the efforts they took. So I was delighted to be able to award it on screen to the CEO of the marathon majors, who I think was slightly shocked, because I'm sure that she felt she was coming on for an in-depth, detailed discussion about some element of policy. And I felt I was pleased to be able to give it to her because I did actually feel slightly guilty that I'd pulled her off from her annual ski holiday in Mammoth in California, but it all ended well, and I was delighted to be able to give them that award. And I think we have our award ceremony in Monaco here on Monday night to celebrate the athletes of the year and the rising stars of the years. But I did feel that was an appropriate award this year, given the extraordinary efforts they've made to globalize and popularize our sport, particularly at community level.
Thank you. And if there are no further questions, I think we will let you go off and enjoy. Oh, one last one, and that is that Stan. Is that Stan, or it's just coming up as Samsung on the screen? Okay, if you want to ask it. Okay, well, we will let you go and enjoy your Friday evenings. Thank you very much for joining us. And again, sorry for the delay.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Enjoy whatever is
Thank you,
left
Mr.
of your
Sebastian.
day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.